Blog Talk Radio.
Are you ready to take a bite out of the competition? Are you looking for ideas to make your business better? Welcome to the Core Business Show with Tim Jacquet,
sponsored by Apple Capital Group.
At the core of every successful business, you'll find people making a difference. And with each episode of the Core Business Show, we talk with those people, examine those ideas, and explore the strategies that make them special. Now, the host of the Core Business Show, Tim Jacquet.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Core Business Show. I'm Tim Jacquet, your host. Today, I have Stephen on the line. We're going to talk about what is Six Sigma and how can it benefit your business. If you want to chime in, call in at 347-324-3460. You can go ahead and pose a question in the chat room. Stephen, welcome to the program again.
Good morning.
Good morning. Tell us, what is Six Sigma?
Six Sigma is pretty much a quality objective focus on reaching perfection. So in other words, it's pretty much focused on eliminating defects, taking a company from where they're at and trying to get them to the point where they have eliminated any defects from their process. And pretty much what a defect would be is anything that is outside of the customer specifications. So in other words, anything that the customer has defined as ideal for them, and if you are not on task with, that would be considered a defect. So the focus would be to concentrate on finding ways to improve your process to reach there.
Even the federal government looks at this and try to train the officers and the executives, this particular system. Why, even on the federal level, that is so important to have certification in order to get the system down pat?
Well, the certification piece, why it's so important, is that you want to make sure that you've got, the right people doing what, they need to be doing and understand the process, because even going back to the process itself, that's why there are different levels of Six Sigma. Like you've got your green belt and your black belt, and there's different levels, of course, of expertise. But once you've taken some of those courses, then, to get certified, you probably, you can get your certification through a group like ASQ. And then what that basically does is it lets any company or entity know that you've been through not only the proper training, but more importantly, you have done some projects and understand not only the process, but, understand the benefits of it to any company and ultimately to our economy. So making sure, I think the certification piece is critical, making sure that you've got the right people doing the work. Because today anybody can jump online and try to understand some of the basics of Six Sigma and profess to know it, but it's a different thing until you've actually taken on a few projects and have dove in, understand the process from A to Z, and depending upon what you're trying to accomplish, put together the right plan to make it a reality.
Kind of give us some examples of some ways that you can kind of incorporate this in your business.
Well, there are several ways in which you can do it. There is a simple gap analysis, for example, that you can put in place. In other words, you're basically comparing your process to the industry and what's happening in the industry. So you're comparing it to a standard that you have established yourself. You're comparing it to your competition. And of course, you've got an expectation that you're trying to achieve. So the way you can incorporate this is you would, from the beginning, first understand what your different processes are. And in that, have the different standards and expectations and the benchmarks that you're trying to accomplish for each area. And for each area, which, for example, you can use a KPI, key performance indicator, you can look at all the different indicators and then put together a process to review each indicator and how it compares to what the industry is doing, also more importantly, how it meets with what your standard is. And hopefully you're basing all of these upon the voice of the customer. Again, coming back to what is important to the customer. So once you identify what your key indicators are, you know what your customer is looking for, then what you need to do is to put together a system that can analyze each indicator at each stage. And so you're collecting the right data that you can go in and analyze. And first step, of course, that you're going to, once you've identified those key performance indicators, then you want to put together a monitoring process to monitor it and then making sure that it's meeting and hitting what the customer expects to happen. So something simple like that, something very simple, is simply just understanding what your customer wants, understanding your entire process from A to Z, identifying key elements in the process. It may be as simple as owning a contact center and wanting to improve certain components, how quick your agents are picking up the phone, simple things like that. Or if you own a bank, you want to control your loan loss, or you're a lender and your underwriting turn times. I mean, so it grows from service areas like that right into manufacturing, which is a little bit more easier because of the process involved there. But you could pretty much, any company could pretty much pick up, and any company could have literally 50, 60, 70 areas in which they can analyze and they can pull data from to analyze. As long as you can pull data and you can analyze it, that's the key. And then you, of course, tying everything back to what the customer expectation is. Just to put things into perspective, just give you an idea, any company that has multiple projects that they're working on, I mean, you could walk into any company and just one simple thing as improving underwriting turn times, that alone, that one area could save a company, depending upon their size and everything, over $200,000-$300,000. So just to get a perspective, if you had a company that had, 4, 5, 6 projects they're working on, you could literally save a company millions of dollars, depending upon how it's done and how you identify what's important. The other thing that's real critical to Six Sigma is that you've got to, once you identify a project, of course, you've got to have the support of your executive group, because if the owners of the company aren't on board, it's not going to be successful. They have to be on board, they have to support it, and they've got to be part of the process in allowing this to take place. And of course, at the end of the day, I can't say this enough, it comes down to the voice of the customer, because what I talked about earlier about analyzing processes, at the end of the day, it's about defect removal, moving as close to perfection as possible. And perfection really much is defined as simply meeting the customer spec. So the closer you get to meeting a customer spec, the better you're doing as a company, the healthier the company is. It's like taking a patient and trying to move them from where they're sick to where they're healthy. So the better the patient gets, the better your process is getting. And of course, you can it's easier to quantify those numbers. And that's what Six Sigma specializes. Six Sigma is huge. The methodology focuses on quantifying everything and making sense of an entire process. So if you took one company and they took on, if a company could even take on one project, even a year, and that in itself could have huge impacts. But if the company was serious enough, it could comfortably do 3, 4, 5 projects. And I mean, if you were to save, as I said, about $200,000 a year per project, would that make sense? And of course, most companies would tell you absolutely. But today, most companies are starting to understand the benefits of Six Sigma, but a lot still have not taken it on or implemented it. But it is so critical. It's so important, because when you walk into companies, you find out that a lot of companies are pretty much lost as to how to improve on their processes. A lot of them may look at even a simple SWOT analysis to try to solve their problems, and you've got to go beyond just a simple SWOT, because what I mentioned earlier about a gap analysis, one of the benefits of a gap analysis is digging down and really not only gathering data, but how to analyze the data, doing it a detailed analysis of the data is probably one of the most important things that you can do with that. And of course, pulling all the right information and creating all the right reporting and all the right reports play a huge role, because at the end of the day, once you've got all that data in place, it's how do you use that information to achieve your ultimate goal of meeting the customer spec, which is meeting what the customer wants and meeting perfection.
Okay. And it said Jack Welch, former chairman and CEO of General Electric, used this methodology and was very successful and a big advocate of this, and several other organizations as well in the 80s and the 90s. There are different belts. Can you talk about the different belts, green belts, the black belts, and can you talk about what the difference is between those particular belts?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the main differences between belts is that typically your green belt understands the basics of Six Sigma methodology because they have the concepts in place. Maybe have done one or two projects and understand how to take you through, for example, a DMAIC methodology, how to take you pretty much from A to Z and help you potentially implement your process and understand it. While black belt, on the other hand, has a lot more experience, is a lot more detailed, and can not only do a lot of those things, but can help you extract the information, and not only extract it, but how to apply that information and make it successfully. So one of the main differences between the two is a lot of times is experience. It's the experience between a green belt who, again, understands the basics and pretty much has a comfort zone with what Six Sigma methodology is and the mindset of what it takes to be successful with it. And the black belt takes it to the next level because of the experience component.
Wow. It's amazing. Anything you'd like to close us with when it comes to Six Sigma?
Well, the thing I would encourage every company to do is to, if they haven't already, start doing some research into Six Sigma, because I talked about earlier, Six Sigma is focused on quantifying how your process is performing. So it's going to look at what your company is doing compared to what the industry is doing and compared to what your customer wants. So a lot of times there are a number of components. And then once you're able to grab that data, the ability to analyze that data is probably one of the fundamental differences between consultants, because you'll get three groups that you'll bring out, and all three groups have the ability to grab the data, but the big difference is going to be how they analyze it and how they utilize that to achieve success. So I would strongly encourage every company to, if they haven't done already, look into researching what Six Sigma is and the benefits of it, because once they actually sit down and start finding out about it, they'll understand that the benefits outweigh not doing it.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for coming in and talking about Six Sigma. How can we reach out to you, your company information, website, telephone numbers?
Okay. You can reach it as www.creedmont.com. That's CREADMONT.com. That's creedmont.com. And you could reach me. You can give me a call with any questions. I'd be happy to answer them at 678-923-8417. And we do free consults in the beginning. In other words, if you call us, we'll be happy to come out and do a basic analysis for you and let you know what some of the benefits would be. So give me a call and let's talk about it, or visit our website for more information. But these days, to separate yourself from the masses, you've got to look at this because it is light years ahead of what your competition is probably doing. So to separate yourself, I'd strongly recommend it.
Wow. Good enough for John. GE is good enough for you. Well, thank you, Stephen Boca, for coming on the show.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care. Okay. Bye-bye. This has been another production of the Core Business Show with Tim Jacquet. Everybody, thank you for listening. You can download this episode on iTunes, on Blog Talk Radio. Everybody, take care. That was Stephen Amuko. He's with a company out of Atlanta, Georgia. And his contact information, again, he gave out for his company. Everybody, thank you for listening. Have a great day. Take care.
Thank you for listening to the Core Business Show with Tim Jacquet. For a free quote on equipment leasing and financing, visit our website, applecapitalgroup.com. That's applecapitalgroup.com. And fill out the information to receive your free quote. We hope you'll join us for our next episode. And remember, you can always get to the core via iTunes. You'll find all our previous episodes there. Thanks again for listening to the Core Business Show with Tim Jacquet.